Okay, so if you're working on an SEO project that is just a regular old live site, you're not working with like rebuilding it where you have a dev site and a live site. If all you have is one site and you're asked to do things with redirects for that one site, as soon as you're asked to do anything with redirects, go log into the website, make sure you can get in there. Say, go log into the website and install a redirection plugin if it's not already on the site. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm in a site right now, totally different site, but this one doesn't have it installed. So once you get into a website that you're installing this plugin on, you go over into the plugins screen and hit add new. And then you're going to search for redirection. It remembers me typing this redirection. And then you're done. It's just this very first one with the weird flowers. Hit install now. And then activate. So then once it's activated, you're going to see this message up here at the top. You need to configure this plugin for it to actually be turned on. And this is important. If you install it and you don't do this part, then it's basically as if you didn't install it at all. So once you're on this screen, this is just some information. You can skip it, just hit start setup, and then you're going to check these two boxes, monitor permalink changes and keep a log of all redirects and 404s. This one I don't check because we don't really need to know people's IP addresses. And if you do check that, then we have to include something in the privacy policy that says we're tracking their IP information. So I just don't check it. So once you have those first two checked, then hit continue setup and then wait for this thing to work itself through. And once it says that, if it says anything besides good, it's still usually pretty okay. As long as it lets you hit finish setup, then it's fine. Okay, so then we just do finished, and now you are led to this screen. So now that it is installed and configured, it is now going to track all 404 errors that are hit on the site. So that means, again, you're working with a live site here, so it's been running for a while. So there's a chance that people have hit pages that maybe don't exist anymore and don't have it, aren't redirecting anywhere. So it's going to keep a log of all of those error pages. So now here on a live site that has this installed, I'll show you what that looks like. So this has been installed for a while. The reason that you want to do this installation of this plugin immediately when someone asks you to do redirects is because you want it to sit on the site for as long as possible until you've had it on the site for at least several days or several weeks. It's not going to have a log of 404s for you to see what pages are. Oh, this has no 404s. There we go. Well, so that doesn't help us very much, does it? But let's see. Let's just make sure that it's tracking 404s. Logging. Track redirection, log external links, monitor changes to posts. We do want that. I'm just going to make sure that it's supposed to be tracking 404. Sometimes when somebody sets it up, they don't check that initial 404 box. And so it's possible that time to keep logs for. So this should be changed to forever. So no IP logging, that's okay. All right, so again, if you're setting it up yourself, you don't have to worry about that. But so this isn't a great example, but if you go into a live site that you're doing SEO on and it already has the redirection plugin set up and you go to 404s and you see nothing, that's like nearly impossible, because even if somebody's going to hit like a weird image URL that used to exist on the old site, it's going to have tons of 404s, and a lot of them are going to make no sense and really not be something you need to worry about. But there will always, if this plugin has been on the site for any length of time, there will always be 404s. So when you're working on an SEO project, the idea with unless you've been given like specific instruction on like, we need to redirect these pages to these pages, if it's literally just part of the SEO phase 1 project and the task is like redirection or 301 redirects, the job that you have is to figure out which pages are erroring and write redirects for those pages. So that's really the only task unless you're asked to do something specific with the 404 or with the redirects. So because the live site is up and there isn't like a dev site that you're needing to worry about one URL to another URL sort of mapping. Anyway, so and once you have 404s actually showing in the log, you're able to like individually look at each of them and add a redirect to them. So of course, this isn't a great example. Let's see, bear with me while I show you what this looks like. Okay, so we're going to look and see what the 404 errors, the log looks like. All right, so again, tools, redirection. Most of the time it's under tools. Sometimes I've seen it under settings. It's most likely going to be under tools in the sidebar. Okay, so we're under our site and here's the 404 screen. Here we go. So these are the types of things you're going to see. So a lot of this is mumbo jumbo that makes no sense to you, but what you want to pay attention to is these URLs. So if this is a URL like of a legitimate page, like author pages, you can ignore those because you don't need to write a redirect for that. But if you're talking about like a legitimate like service page that you want people to be going to, or you need people to be landing on, you want to add a redirect to the correct one. So again, like if the site that you're working on maybe sort of recently was redone and the old site had weird funky URLs that maybe had the .html at the end or just like weren't structured very well, maybe when they rebuilt the site, they paid better attention to the URL structure and they made the URL structure better. So, but maybe they didn't do the 301 redirects from the old site, the bad URLs, to the new site, new URLs. So there might be some 404s on real pages like that, maybe people had bookmarked the old pages. And so when they go to that bookmark, it leads them to the site, but they hit a 404 page. Sometimes they don't care. It's just a way for them to get to the site and they're okay that they hit a 404 page. But you don't want them to have to do that. You want them to be automatically redirected to the correct page. So the best thing to do is first you click this no grouping and change it to group by URL. And that is going to group all the URLs because a lot of the times that's a log of every 404. If this one is visited 30 times, it's going to have 30 logs for that same exact URL. So groups it by URL, and that gives you an easier way to, like this one in our site, like, so we definitely, that's not a page that exists on our site anymore, right? So it's going to go to page not found. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out which page it should go to, just contact, and we're going to grab that path. And then we are going to add a redirect. Now, source URL, again, is that. And if you watch my other video on URLs or 301 redirecting for website projects, some of this will make sense. But okay, so the source URL is the one that is causing an error. The target URL is the one you want it to automatically redirect people to when they try to go here. This is all you do. You just keep this and then you just add the path here, and then you I always do this, delete logs for these entries. So it's going to delete all the logs for any of the 404 errors coming from this page, just because once you've added the redirect, you don't want to keep track of those old logs. It's pointless. So it just got rid of it, but we want to do it for here too, because this is a legit page. So we just do that. So I think that really the idea of doing 301 redirects for an SEO phase 1 project on a website that you only have one website, there's no dev website, is the job is to clean up this list of URLs. Now, when you see things like this that have a .png ending, you can just delete them. There's nothing for you to redirect. There's no just literally go in here and I think my speaker just changed. So sorry if I sound funky. Okay. Just go here and just delete some of these. Delete the ones that you're not deleting redirects here. You're not doing anything. You're just deleting like the memory of these pages hitting 404 errors. So if somebody hits this page again after you delete this, then it'll start and then the count will go back to 1 basically. It's not going to show on the list and then until somebody tries to hit it again, and then it'll show up in the list again. So a lot of the times the unfortunate thing about cleaning up 404s is that you
are deleting things that are probably going to show up in this list again at some point in the future anyway, but that's okay. So the idea with the phase 1 SEO project is just to get this cleaned up as much as you can for the client. And also that way you're able to go through the entire list and make sure that you're not missing any real pages that should be redirecting to something else. Okay. I believe that is it for the SEO phase 1. I'm just looking at my list. Okay, I think that's it for SEO phase 1 redirection. Again, oh, I didn't start this. Well, if you need a downloaded list of every URL on a website, ask Megan or myself. We have a tool to be able to do that. So you don't necessarily always need to do it with the SEO phase 1 projects, but because you're just mostly going through the 404 list and cleaning those up and getting those redirected. But you will be doing that when you're working on a brand new like web development site. So if you need a list of that, we can do that for you. And let me know if you have any questions.